Vivian Reynolds' 65th birthday celebration sparkled like the champagne in 200 crystal flutes. The garden of her Tudor-style mansion was transformed into an enchanted evening landscape. White roses and hydrangeas adorned every table. Fairy lights twinkled in the manicured trees, and a string quartet played softly beneath a white pavilion. Everyone who mattered in Greenwich, Connecticut was there, dressed in their evening finest. I stood at the periphery, watching my husband of 8 years charm the crowd. Nathan Reynolds, tall, with salt and pepper hair, and the kind of smile that made people trust him with their life savings, which many in this garden had. As the son of the celebrated hostess and managing partner at Reynolds Wealth Management, he moved through the party like royalty. His bespoke navy suit immaculate. My hands trembled slightly as I checked my phone again. The email from Dominic in forensic accounting remained open. Eliza, I've confirmed your suspicions. The documentation you provided shows systematic fraud. Call me immediately. I'd spent the afternoon crying in my car, hyperventilating in our bathroom, and finally, drinking enough bourbon to steady my hands as I applied makeup for tonight's performance. The perfectly applied coral lipstick felt like a mask. When Nathan clinked his knife against his champagne flute, the crowd hushed. Vivian beamed at her son, regal in her silver gown. Her blonde gray hair swept into an elegant chignon. I have a very special announcement to make on this very special occasion, Nathan said, his voice carrying across the garden. Mom, not only are you celebrating 65 years of an extraordinary life tonight, but you're also about to become a grandmother again. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Our daughter Zoe was only 7. We hadn't discussed having more children in years. A young woman stepped forward to stand beside Nathan. She was pretty in a fresh-faced way, with chestnut hair falling in loose waves over her bare shoulders. Her emerald dress, a shade too tight, a touch too short for the occasion, hugged the slight swell of her belly. I'd like you all to meet Vanessa, Nathan continued, his arms sliding around her waist. We're expecting a baby boy in February. His eyes found mine across the garden, challenging. Vivian's face cycled through confusion, shock, and then a brittle smile as realization dawned. The guests turned to stare at me. How wonderful! Vivian recovered quickly, though her voice quavered. What a surprise! The silence that followed was excruciating. I placed my champagne on a nearby table and walked forward. My Louboutins clicked against the stone path, each step precise, measured. 8 years of marriage, of presenting the perfect face to Greenwich society, had prepared me for this moment. I felt oddly calm, like I was floating above the scene. I also have an announcement, I said, my voice clear and steady, and it concerns everyone here tonight. 3 months earlier, I'd found the first discrepancy. It was an ordinary Tuesday evening, and Nathan was working late, again. After putting Zoe to bed, I'd settled in our home office to catch up on some of my own work. As a historical architecture preservation consultant, I was finalizing plans for restoring a 19th century library. But I needed reference photos from a similar project Nathan and I had visited years ago. When I opened his laptop, we knew each other's passwords, or so I thought. A financial spreadsheet was still active. Normally, I would have closed it immediately. Nathan's client's financial information was confidential. But a name caught my eye. Reynolds, Vivian. Curiosity made me scroll through the document. Numbers blurred together until a particular transaction stood out. A transfer of $250,000 from Vivian's retirement account to an entity called Helios Partners. I frowned. Vivian had mentioned over lunch, the previous week, that she was being conservative with investments. As she approached retirement, I opened another folder and found more transfers to Helios Partners from other clients. The pattern was troubling. I took screenshots and closed the laptop, telling myself there must be a legitimate explanation. The next morning, I casually asked Nathan about it over breakfast. Helios Partners? He'd looked up from his coffee, his expression guarded. It's a new investment opportunity. Very exclusive. High returns. Why do you ask? I saw it on your laptop last night. I was looking for those photos from the Lockhart House restoration. His jaw tightened momentarily before he relaxed into a smile. You should have texted me. I keep client information on that laptop. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't realize I was looking at something confidential. He kissed my forehead. No harm done. Just personal boundaries, right? That evening, Nathan changed all his passwords. Later that week, I was meeting my closest friend, Diane, for our monthly lunch at La Grenouille. Diane and I had been friends since college, and despite her moving to corporate law while I pursued architecture, we'd remained close. She'd never particularly liked Nathan, though she kept her opinions mostly to herself after the first few years of my marriage. You seem distracted, Diane noted as we settled into our corner table. I toyed with my water glass. Have you ever heard of an investment firm called Helios Partners? Diane's dark eyes narrowed. No, should I have? Nathan's been moving client money there, including his mother's. She tilted her head. And you're concerned because it just feels off. I lowered my voice. I looked it up. There's barely any online presence, just a generic website registered 6 months ago. Eliza. Diane set down her fork. What are you really asking me? I met her gaze. If someone wanted to hide money, how would they do it? Her expression grew serious. That depends on whether they're trying to hide it legally or illegally. What if Nathan is doing something wrong? Diane didn't look surprised. Do you have reason to believe he is? I hesitated, then told her about the spreadsheet and Nathan's reaction. That could be innocent, she said carefully. Or not. I know someone in financial forensics who's very discreet. If you want to be sure. I stared at my untouched salad. I need to know, Diane. 2 weeks later, I had my first meeting with Dominic Reyes. He was direct and professional as he explained what he would need. Bank statements, investment reports, anything financial you can access without raising suspicion, he said. I'll analyze the money flow patterns. As I gathered documents, I noticed other changes in Nathan. He was coming home later, often smelling faintly of an unfamiliar perfume. His explanations were vague. Client dinners, networking events, industry conferences. When I checked his calendar, which had previously been shared with mine, I found it was now private. Meanwhile, Dominic found more red flags. Helios Partners appeared to be a shell company, one of several that Nathan had established. Client funds were being moved through these entities, then partially invested in high-risk ventures or simply disappearing. From what I can see, Dominic explained during one of our meetings, he's been siphoning funds for at least 3 years. The statements clients receive are falsified to show steady growth. What happens when they want to withdraw money? I asked. He's playing a shell game, using new client investments to cover any withdrawals. It's essentially a Ponzi scheme. The confirmation hit me like a physical blow. My husband was a fraud. Everything we'd built together was founded on lies. That same week, Nathan announced he would be attending a financial conference in Boston. He left on Thursday morning with an overnight bag and promises to call. That evening, curious and suspicious, I used the tracking app we'd installed years ago for safety. His phone showed him not in Boston, but at an apartment building in downtown Stamford, just 30 minutes from our home. I sat in my car outside the modern high-rise for nearly an hour, questioning my sanity. When Nathan and a young woman emerged, walking close together to a waiting Uber, I slouched down in my seat. Even from a distance, I could see his hand resting possessively on her lower back. The next day, I told Nathan I was meeting a client in Stamford and followed my hunch to the apartment building. In the lobby, I scanned the directory. Under Unit 1203, the name read V. Morgan. The concierge was young and eager to help when I explained I was delivering surprise flowers for Ms. Morgan. "Oh, Vanessa will love that," he said. She mentioned her boyfriend was coming by tonight to celebrate their anniversary. Anniversary? I managed to ask. Yeah, she said they've been together 2 years today. He looked at my empty hands. Are the flowers being delivered separately? Yes, I said. They should arrive around 7, 2 years. While I'd been restoring historic buildings and raising our daughter, Nathan had been building a parallel life. I drove home and booked an appointment with Allison Burke, the most ruthless divorce attorney in Connecticut. Allison's advice was unequivocal. Document everything before confronting him. Once he knows you know, evidence will start disappearing. What about the fraud? I asked. There are people who will lose everything. That complicates things. Allison looked at me intently. Legally, you could be implicated if you've benefited from the proceeds, even unwittingly. But if you report him, it will trigger immediate consequences. Your assets will be frozen. Your reputation in the community could be damaged. Are you prepared for that? I thought of Zoe, of our house, of the life I'd built. I need time to prepare. Then be careful, she warned. Men like Nathan don't react well to losing control. I started making preparations, opening a separate bank account, securing important documents and spending more time with Zoe, preparing her in subtle ways for changes ahead, all while maintaining the facade of our perfect marriage. Then came Vivian's birthday party invitation, and Nathan's insistence that we present a united front for his mother's sake. I agreed, planning to wait until after the celebration to confront him. But that morning, everything accelerated. Dominic's email confirmed what I'd suspected. Nathan hadn't just been embezzling from strangers. He'd stolen nearly $2 million from his own mother's accounts. And then, at the party, Nathan introduced his pregnant mistress to the world. As I watched the shock on Vivian's face, something inside me snapped. The careful plan I'd constructed disintegrated. It was time for the truth. I also have an announcement, I repeated, moving to stand beside Vivian. And it concerns everyone here tonight. Nathan's expression shifted from triumph to wariness. Eliza, this isn't the time. On the contrary, I said this is exactly the time. Before anyone congratulates Nathan on his new beginning, you should all know what he's ending. Vanessa, the mistress, looked confused, her hand protectively covering her slightly swollen belly. Nathan, would you like to tell your mother about Helios Partners? I asked. Or shall I? The color drained from his face. This is inappropriate. We can discuss this at home. Like we discussed your 2-year relationship with Vanessa? I turned to the young woman. That is how long you've been together, isn't it? Your anniversary was last week. Vanessa's eyes widened. She looked at Nathan, who remained silent. Eliza, please, Vivian said quietly. Whatever issues you and Nathan have, this isn't just about me, Vivian. I reached into my clutch and removed a folded document. This concerns you and the Blakemores, the Suttons, the Kellers, everyone whose money Nathan manages. I glanced around the garden at the mentioned families, all close friends of Vivian's. Nathan has been running a sophisticated fraud scheme for at least 3 years. That's absurd. Nathan finally spoke, his voice tight. She's clearly upset about Vanessa and making wild accusations. I handed the document to Vivian. This is a forensic accounting report showing how Nathan transferred $2 million from your retirement accounts into shell companies he controls. There's more evidence being sent to the SEC and FBI tomorrow morning. Vivian's hands shook as she unfolded the paper. Nathan, what is this? It's a misunderstanding, he said quickly. Eliza has no idea what she's talking about. I made some temporary reallocations to maximize returns. Then why falsify the statements? I challenged. Why create fake companies? Why tell your clients, including your mother, that their investments are secure when you've gambled away millions? Murmurs spread through the crowd. James Keller, one of Nathan's oldest clients, stepped forward. Is this true, Nathan? Of course not, Nathan snapped, but his confidence was wavering. This is my wife's vindictive response to finding out my husband is both a cheater and a thief? I finished for him. Yes, I admit I'm angry. But that doesn't make the evidence any less real. Vivian was still reading the document, her face ashen. These account numbers, these are my accounts. Mom, let me explain. Nathan moved toward her, but she stepped back. How much is left? She asked quietly. Nathan swallowed. It's complicated. The investments? How much, Nathan? The silence that followed was answer enough. Vanessa looked between Nathan and me, confusion giving way to horror. You said the money for our apartment was from your bonus, she said. You said you were separated from your wife, that you were just waiting for the right time to make it official. Another lie exposed. I almost felt sorry for her. Everyone calm down, Nathan raised his hands. This is all being blown out of proportion. Yes, I've made some unconventional investment decisions, but everything will balance out. And yes, Vanessa and I should have handled things differently, but these are personal matters that don't need to be aired publicly. Like announcing your mistress is pregnant at your mother's birthday party? Diane spoke up from nearby. She'd been watching silently until now. The difference, I said, meeting Nathan's gaze directly, is that your announcement was about humiliating me. Mine is about protecting everyone in this garden from continuing to be victimized by your fraud. Vivian's composure finally broke. How could you do this, Nathan? To me? To your clients, our friends? Before he could answer, I addressed the stunned crowd. I've prepared copies of account transfers and falsified statements for anyone who has investments with Reynolds Wealth Management. I suggest you all contact independent financial advisors immediately. Nathan's face contorted with rage. You've lost your mind. Do you have any idea what you've done? You've destroyed everything. No, Nathan, I replied calmly. You did that all by yourself. The elegant birthday celebration dissolved into chaos. Servers stood awkwardly holding trays while guests huddled in groups, some making frantic phone calls, others demanding explanations from Nathan. The string quartet had stopped playing, the musicians watching the drama unfold with undisguised interest. Nathan grabbed my arm, his fingers digging painfully into my flesh. Outside. Now, he hissed, pulling me toward the house. Diane stepped forward, but I shook my head slightly. This confrontation was inevitable. In Vivian's wood-paneled study, Nathan slammed the door and rounded on me. What the hell do you think you're doing? He shouted. Do you have any idea what's at stake? I know exactly what's at stake, I said. People's retirements. Their children's college funds. Your mother's security. I could have fixed it. He paced the room like a caged animal. I had plans to recover everything. Like you've been planning for the past 3 years? While the hole got deeper? I shook my head. There's no fixing this, Nathan. He ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair. You don't understand. The market turned against me. I had to cover some losses, then more opportunities came along that needed capital. It was temporary. And Vanessa? Was she temporary too? His expression hardened. Don't pretend you care about that. This is about control. You couldn't stand that I found happiness elsewhere, so you decided to burn everything down. I stared at him, truly seeing him for perhaps the first time in our marriage. You really believe that, don't you? That this is about my jealousy, not your crimes? We had a good life, Eliza. A beautiful home. Respect in the community. Zoe had everything she needed. Why wasn't that enough for you? Enough? I laughed incredulously. You stole from your own mother. You've been living a double life. And you're asking why I couldn't just look the other way? You've always been self-righteous, he spat. Always thinking you're better than everyone else with your precious integrity. Where was that integrity when you were enjoying the vacations, the house, the lifestyle my work provided? The truth in his accusation stung. I had benefited from his success, had asked few questions about our growing wealth. You're right, I admitted. I was complicit through my silence and my assumptions. I believed in you and us. That was my mistake. He seized on my concession. Then help me fix this. Tell them you were mistaken, that you misinterpreted some documents in your emotional state. We can still salvage something. For a moment, I wavered. The pleading in his eyes was so convincing, so familiar. How many times had I forgiven smaller deceptions because I wanted to believe in the man I'd married? Nathan, I said softly, it's over. The forensic accountant has copies of everything. Multiple federal agencies will have the evidence by morning. His face transformed, desperation giving way to cold fury. You stupid, vindictive bitch. Do you think you'll come out of this clean? Every luxury you've enjoyed was paid for with that money. You'll lose everything, too. I know, I said. I've made my peace with that. A knock at the door interrupted us. Vivian entered without waiting for a response. Her elegant composure restored, though her eyes were red-rimmed. Most of the guests have left, she said. Her voice was steady but distant. Vanessa is quite upset. James Keller has called his lawyer, as have the Suttons. She turned to Nathan. How bad is it, really? Nathan straightened his tie, switching tactics. Mom, I can explain everything. The market has been volatile, and I had to make some creative maneuvers to protect our clients' interests. Stop lying, Nathan, Vivian cut him off. For once in your life, tell the truth. He stared at his mother, then at me, trapped between the two women he had betrayed most profoundly. Something in him seemed to collapse. It's bad, he admitted finally. Started with one client, then another, using new investments to cover withdrawals from others. It worked for a while. Then it didn't. He looked at the floor. I don't know exactly how much is gone. Millions. Vivian absorbed this with remarkable composure. And my money? Most of it, he whispered. I was going to replace it first, I swear. She nodded slowly, as if confirming something she'd already known. The house? Is there a mortgage I don't know about? 3, he said. And liens against most of our other properties. Vivian turned to me. Did you know? Before recently? No, I said. I discovered discrepancies 3 months ago. I've been gathering evidence since then. And you chose my birthday party for this revelation? I was planning to wait, I admitted, until Nathan decided to announce his pregnant girlfriend tonight. It seemed symmetrical. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Indeed. She looked back at her son. The authorities will be coming for you, Nathan. Tonight, probably, he paled. How do you know? Because I called them after reading Eliza's document, she said simply. Some of those signatures you forged were mine. That makes it my responsibility, too. Nathan sank into a leather chair, his face in his hands. I never meant for this to happen. Few people do, Vivian said, her voice softening slightly. But intentions count for very little in the face of actions. A commotion outside drew our attention. Through the study window, we could see 2 police cars arriving, their lights flashing silently in the elegant circular driveway. They're here, Vivian said unnecessarily. Nathan stood, straightening his jacket in a reflexive gesture. I need to see Vanessa before— She's gone, Vivian interrupted. Called a cab about 20 minutes ago. Seemed quite eager to distance herself. Did she say where— Nathan, I said quietly. It's time to face this. He looked at me, suddenly appearing much older than his 43 years. What about Zoe? She'll know that her father made serious mistakes, but that he's taking responsibility for them, I said. At least I hope that's what I'll be able to tell her. He nodded slowly, seeming to understand that this small dignity was the only thing left to salvage. Then he walked toward the study door, his shoulders squared, his steps deliberate. Vivian and I watched silently as he crossed the foyer to where 2 uniformed officers and a man in a suit were waiting. There was a brief conversation. Then Nathan was led outside, no handcuffs yet, but the gentle pressure of the detective's hand on his back making the situation clear to any observers. Well, Vivian said as the police cars drove away, this isn't how I imagined my 65th birthday would end. I turned to her, uncertain what to say. Vivian, I'm so sorry, she waved dismissively. For what? Exposing the truth? She moved to a cabinet and removed a decanter of amber liquid. Bourbon? Please. She poured 2 generous glasses. I'm not sorry you told me, Eliza. I'm sorry I didn't see it myself. She handed me a tumbler. A mother should know her child better. Nathan is very convincing, I said, accepting the drink. He fooled a lot of people, including you. It wasn't a question. Yes, I acknowledged. Completely. Vivian took a long sip of bourbon. What will you do now? Sell what I can to help repay the people he stole from. Find a smaller place for Zoe and me. Start over. You could fight to keep more legally. Given that you reported it, I shook my head. I don't want anything tied to this. She studied me over the rim of her glass. You're not what I expected when Nathan brought you home 8 years ago. What did you expect? Someone more decorative, less substantial, she sighed. I thought he needed someone who wouldn't challenge him. I was wrong about many things. We drank in silence for a moment, the weight of the evening settling around us. If you need a reference for clients, Vivian said finally, I know many people who restore historic homes. My friendship still carries some weight, at least until the gossip about tonight spreads. Thank you, I said, surprised by the offer. Don't thank me yet, she smiled thinly. The next few months will be excruciating for all of us. But we'll endure, she raised her glass slightly. To unexpected revelations, I clinked my glass against hers. To the truth. 6 months later, I stood in the empty foyer of what had once been our home. The mansion that had featured an Architectural Digest just 2 years earlier now belonged to a tech entrepreneur from California. The sale proceeds, along with everything else Nathan and I had owned, had gone toward restitution for his victims. Nathan had pleaded guilty to multiple federal charges of wire fraud, embezzlement, and securities violations. The evidence was overwhelming, and his cooperation had earned him a slightly reduced sentence, 12 years in a medium-security prison. He would be 61 when he got out. Zoe would be 19. She had taken it better than I'd feared. Children are resilient, and at 7, she understood in simple terms that her father had taken things that didn't belong to him, and now had to face the consequences. We visited him monthly at the Federal Correctional Facility in Danbury. The visits were awkward but necessary. He was still her father, and she still loved him with the uncomplicated devotion of a child. I traced my finger along the carved banister one last time. Despite everything, there were good memories in this house. Zoe learning to walk across this foyer, holiday gatherings, quiet evenings by the fire. But those memories were now entangled with the knowledge that our life here had been built on deception. Ready? Diane asked from the doorway. She'd been my rock through the chaos of the past 6 months, the legal proceedings, the media frenzy. The Greenwich gossip mill had never had such delicious fodder, and the practical challenges of dismantling a life and building a new one. Yes, I said, turning away from the staircase. Just saying goodbye. We walked out to Diane's car where Zoe waited, absorbed in a book in the back seat. My own car, a modest Subaru rather than the Mercedes I'd once driven, was already packed with the few belongings we'd kept and parked at our new apartment in Stamford. The irony wasn't lost on me that we were now living in the same city as Vanessa had, though in a very different building. Do you regret it? Diane asked as we pulled away from the house. Any of it? I considered the question. I regret not seeing the signs earlier. I regret that so many people lost so much. I looked back at the house growing smaller in the side mirror. But I don't regret telling the truth, even at Vivian's party. Some moments demand radical honesty. Speaking of Vivian, how is she doing? Better than expected, I said. She sold her house and moved into a condo in Greenwich. She's had to economize significantly, but she's managing. I smiled slightly. She's starting a foundation for victims of financial fraud. Asked me to serve on the board. Will you? I think so. It feels right somehow. We drove in comfortable silence for a while. Zoe had fallen asleep, her book resting on her chest. And Vanessa? Diane asked finally. Have you heard anything? She had the baby, a boy. Nathan's seen pictures. I still felt a complicated mix of emotions about Vanessa. Anger, pity, a strange sense of kinship. She's moved back to Ohio, living with her parents. She was questioned extensively, but they found no evidence she knew about the fraud. Do you think she did? I don't know, I admitted. I think she knew something wasn't right, but chose not to look too closely. Like I did, for too long. We arrived at my new apartment building, clean and modern, but without the grandeur of our former home. My salary as an architecture consultant was enough for us to live comfortably, if modestly. Are you sure you don't want to stay with me a bit longer? Diane asked as we unloaded the car. You know you're both welcome. We need to start building our new normal, I said. But thank you for everything. After Diane left, Zoe and I ordered pizza and ate it sitting on the floor of our living room, our few pieces of furniture creating islands in the empty space. Do you miss the old house? I asked her as she carefully picked olives off her slice. She considered the question with the seriousness only children can bring to such moments. A little. I miss my big room in the yard. She looked around. But I like that we can hear the train from here. And I can walk to school. We'll make this place our own, I promised. It'll feel like home soon. Mom? Zoe set down her pizza. Are you still sad about Daddy? I pulled her close. Yes, sometimes. I'm sad about the choices he made and that we can't all be together. But I'm also proud of how brave you've been, and I'm excited about our new adventure together. Me too, she said, seeming satisfied with my answer. Can I help pick the color for my new room? Absolutely. Later, after Zoe was asleep in her temporary bed, a mattress on the floor surrounded by stuffed animals, my phone rang. The screen showed Eliza Reynolds. Eliza, she said when I answered. I hope I'm not calling too late. Not at all. We're just settling in. How's the new place? Small but bright. Good bones, as they say in my profession. I heard the clink of ice in a glass, her nightly bourbon, I guessed. Our relationship had evolved into something unexpected after Nathan's arrest. Not quite friendship, but a mutual respect born from shared trauma. I saw Nathan yesterday, she said. How is he? Thinner. Humbler, perhaps. It's hard to tell with him what's genuine, she sighed. He asked about you and Zoe. We saw him last weekend. Zoe drew him pictures of our new apartment, he told me. A pause. He also told me to thank you. Thank me? I was genuinely surprised. For what? For continuing to bring Zoe, for not poisoning her against him. Another pause. And though he didn't say it directly, I think for stopping him before it got worse. I sat on my windowsill, looking out at the Stamford skyline. Did you thank me for ruining his life? Vivian laughed softly. Oh, Eliza, you didn't ruin his life. You merely exposed the ruins he'd already made of it. I heard her take a sip. I'm calling because I have a proposition for you. The foundation board met today, and we've decided to establish a small architectural division focused on creating affordable housing for families impacted by financial fraud. We need a director. Vivian, before you say anything, this isn't charity. It's business. Your credentials are impeccable and your personal experience gives you insight others would lack. I was stunned. I don't know what to say. Say you'll consider it. The salary would be substantial, and there's a brownstone near the foundation's offices that comes with the position. 3 bedrooms. A small garden. Good schools nearby. Why are you doing this? I asked. She was quiet for a moment. Because in the wreckage my son created, you showed integrity. That's rare and valuable. She cleared her throat. And because I wasn't the mother I should have been to Nathan. Perhaps I can do better by my granddaughter. The offer was unexpected and complex. A new beginning intertwined with the very person whose life had been shattered alongside mine. But there was also a certain poetry to it, a chance to build something positive from the ruins. I'll consider it, I said finally. Excellent. We can discuss details over lunch next week. After we hung up, I stayed by the window for a long time. Below, the city lights glittered. Behind me, our sparse apartment waited to be transformed into a home. Beyond that, an uncertain future beckoned. 6 months ago, I'd stood in Vivian's garden and shattered the careful facade of my life with a single truth. The aftermath had been painful, messy, and clarifying. I'd lost the life I thought I wanted and found something else, something more genuine. I thought about Nathan in his prison cell, Vivian in her downsized condo, Vanessa with her newborn in Ohio. All of us forever connected by a web of lies, and the moment they were exposed, the truth had cost us all dearly. But as I turned from the window to the quiet apartment where my daughter slept peacefully, I knew it had been worth the price. Some ledgers, once balanced, reveal not what was lost, but what remains. And what remained was enough to build upon, one honest brick at a time.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.